What's going on, guys? Zuko back with another Shadowlands video. How's everybody doing? Grab those coffees. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. It's reset day. It's Tuesday. I was asking you guys in the Discord what you got on in your vault. I had 5 chances to get a tier set piece in my vault. Did not get a tier set piece. I was like, I was a little sad, not gonna lie. But I did get this weapon, so I'm not gonna cry. I got a 268, soon to be a 272 weapon. I need to get 2,000 Mythic plus rating though in order to get that. So we're kind of on the way, but I need to start doing like 15s again, basically. Like, ugh. Anyway. That's okay. Actually, I probably don't have to do 15s, right? Because I have to do the Tazavesh ones, and I'll get a bunch of rating. Anyway, the point is, it's fine. I got a weapon, which is really good. Actually, quite strong. And it has mastery on it. So we're at, like, 70% mastery now. Right? 70% mastery. Look at that. 35 haste. We're really cooking with mastery. So I'm excited about that. That's actually very good. Yeah. Let me just say... the video that we're going to do today, I'm going to do the new build that I've been trying. Now, I was going to do a video on the latest raid boss after Prototype Pantheon, which would have been, of course, Lihivim. And I did kill Lihivim last week. As you can see on my... Does it show it here? Yeah, so I've killed Lihivim once there. I did that last week. You can see it right here. So I don't know where the footage went. I just looked for like half an hour through all my VODs. Cannot find the footage for that. So I will do a video on Lihivim this week later when I kill her again. So today, instead, we are going to talk about this new build that I've been exploring on Enhancement Shaman. And it's like a lot of fun and it's really cool. And it's essentially, I'm going to boil it down to calling it the Frost Enhancement Shaman or the Ice Enhancement Shaman. I think the Frost Shaman is a little better. So that's the build that we're going to be running. And I'm going to talk to you about it now. So buckle up, get your coffee, relax, and let's talk about this cool new build that you can try and take into your group. So what is this build all about? What's kind of the core idea of this build? The core idea actually centers around Ice Strike and Frost Shock. That's the kind of the combination here. And Ice Strike, I know you guys have no idea what it does because nobody's ever used this ability in the history of this game. I don't even think it was here. I think it was here in BFA maybe. Anyway, the point is, it's a strange-looking ability. You always are going to take usually Stormflea or a Hot Hand, but instead we're going for Ice Strike because it helps us to essentially cast Frost Shock more often. And Frost Shock, we're obviously going to buff with Hailstorm, but beyond that, Frost Shock is really going to be buffed with this Conduit here, Chilled to the Core. The entire build revolves around Ice Strike, Frost Shock, and Chilled to the Core. Let me get to that in a second. What's the first part of this build? Well, it's Witch Doctor Wolfbones. That's what we're running. Witch Doctor Wolfbones. Yes, even in a Mythic Plus. Now, I think that this shines in a single target scenario, but I think in Mythic Plus, like in AoE, it actually works well. It works fine because you're going to take Hailstorm. But the first piece of this is Witch Doctor Wolfbones. So you increase the chance to gain stack of Maelstrom Weapon by 3%. Whenever you gain a stack of Maelstrom Weapon, the cooldown of Feral Spirits is reduced by 2 seconds. Okay, that's the baseline that we're working with. Every time we get a stack of Maelstrom Weapon, the cooldown of Feral Spirits goes down by 2 seconds. Cool. How are we going to trigger this effect as often as we possibly can? Well, we're going to cast Frost Shock, and we're going to buff it with Chill to the Core. So Chill to the Core says Frost Shock has a 60% chance to generate 2 stacks of Maelstrom Weapon. Well, there you go. That's exactly what we want to be doing. We want to be generating as many stacks of Maelstrom Weapon as possible. So we want to be casting Frost Shock as much as possible. And in order to do that, we need to take Ice Strike. Why? Because Ice Strike, first of all, does frost damage, which is good. That will benefit from our mastery. But the second part of Frost Shock is Ice Strike is what's most important here. Successful Ice Strikes reset the cooldown of your Flame Shock and Frost Shock spells. Interesting. Very interesting. Why is that important? Well, it means we can cast Frost Shock back to back. So what you can essentially do is go Frost Shock, Ice Strike, Frost Shock right away. Or in our case, because we are running Hailstorm, we're going to get 5 stacks of Maelstrom Weapon. We're going to cast a Chain Lightning, then go Frost Shock, then go Ice Strike, then do a chain lightning again if we get our Maelstrom weapon stacks up, then do Frost Shock again. So you get 2 empowered Frost Shocks that trigger Hailstorm. And Hailstorm, if you don't know, says each stack of Maelstrom weapon that you consume increases the damage of your next Frost Shock and causes it to cleave onto 1 additional target per Maelstrom weapon stack consumed for a total of 6 targets. This can hit 6 targets, okay? Each one of those targets that gets hit has a chance to give you 2 stacks of Maelstrom weapon. Yes, each target. So if you hit 6 targets and they each trigger Chilled to the Core, you get 12 Maelstrom. You can only get 10. So you would get 10 Maelstrom weapon stacks. Do you see how this works now? If you get 10 Maelstrom weapon stacks, each one of those Maelstrom weapon stacks reduces the cooldown of your dogs and also allows you to use another spender again. It lets you get back to your spenders very quickly. This build, Giga, Hyper, Giga, Ultra generates Maelstrom weapon stacks faster than like any other build that I've run. Nothing does it as quick as this build. Here's the reason why. Frost Shock with Chill to the Core has a chance to generate 2 Maelstrom weapon stacks per target hit. You get to cast it once, then you get to refresh it with Ice Strike, then you get to throw in a Chain Lightning so that it boosts it with Hailstorm again, then you get to press it again, right back to back to back. The amount of Maelstrom weapon stacks that this will gain for you is absolutely crazy. It will reduce the cooldown of your Feral Spirits like crazy, like very, very fast. And it allows you to build Maelstrom weapon stacks really quickly to use your spenders, including things like Elemental Blast. So you're going to be able to cast Elemental Blast basically on cooldown. Like, it'll just be going all the time. So this is the build. This is the idea. Let me run through it again very, very quickly. Where does it start? Witch Doctor Wolf Bones, okay? Reduce the cooldown of your Feral Wolves by 2 seconds every time you gain a Maelstrom weapon stack. How are we going to gain Maelstrom weapon stacks? Well, we're going to cast Frost Shock. And then we're going to reset the cooldown of Frost Shock with Ice Strike. And those Frost Shocks are going to be Hailstorm infused. So they're going to hit at least 5 to 6 targets. Each one of those targets has a chance to give us 2 stacks of Maelstrom weapon. Okay? So you could possibly get 10 or 12 stacks if it's 6 targets and it triggers every single time. You could get that many stacks, and that would reduce the cooldown of your dogs by 10 to 12 seconds just on one cast of Frost Shock. Okay? That's the whole build. That's how it works. Again, on top of all that, we're continuing to stack Mastery. I have 70% Mastery now. We're continuing to stack Mastery as much as possible. Why? Because Ice Strike and Frost Shock both do frost damage. And so they benefit tremendously from any Mastery that we can get. Our Mastery, of course, boosts our frost damage. Okay? So that's the point of all this. We're getting Mastery damage from here, from these 2 abilities. We're generating crazy amounts of Maelstrom weapon stacks because we're casting Frost Shock back to back to back, and we're getting the Hailstorm buff on it as well. And that's reducing the cooldown of our dogs, letting our dogs be out all the time, and we're buffing our dogs with Elemental Spirits, okay? So here's how it's going to go. I'm just going to drop group with Hero here. Him and I were testing something out, but I'm going to reset the data. Let me just go over here. Reset the overall data. Reset it. Whatever, reset it all. There we go. Okay. Reset it. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you about the opener here, and we're going to get to it in a second. Current segment. Okay, good. Here's what we're going to do. I am going to put a turnip down to get 5 targets because otherwise, I just want you to be able to see the potential of this, right? There's really, really good potential here. Turnip. So we'll put that down in a second. The opener is going to consist of wolves right away. You start with Feral Spirits. Then you're going to start with your Primordial Wave. And then you're going to spread that Primordial Wave, because if it's a Flame Shock, with Lava Lash, okay? Wolves, Primordial Wave, Lava Lash. Then we're going to do Sundering into hopefully a Spender, but if we don't have a Spender right away, then we'll do like Crash Lightning, Storm Strike into a Spender, which would be our Lightning Bolt because it's cleaving. And then we'll use our Frost Shock, and then we'll go Ice Strike, and then we'll try to get a Spender again to Frost Shock. And I'm going to talk you through it. I'm going to talk you through the whole thing. Okay? So here's how it looks. We're going to Fleshcraft. We have 70% Mastery. And here's how the fight looks. We're going to go, here we go. Wolves into Prime Wave. Spread it around. Sundering. We're going to Flame Shock one more time. Okay, here comes our Spender. Into Frost Shock. Into Ice Strike. Into Chain Lightning. Into Frost Shock. Look at how much Maelstrom. We just spent 3 Maelstrom things and we still have more. We just did 5 Maelstrom things in a row. Because that's how much we generated. Our dogs are back already. Here we go. This plus this. We're going to spread that around. Do this. Spender into this. Into Ice Strike to reset Frost Shock. Into Spender. Into Frost Shock again. Our Spenders are back again. We're going to press them. Ice Frost Shock. Our dogs are back because they come back so quickly. Crash Lightning. Chain Lightning. Spend it. Do another Spender. Ice Strike to get Frost Shock back. And we're going to Frost Shock again. I know it's really complicated. You'll get there. Trust me. Okay, here comes our big Lightning Bolt into Frost Shock. Then we're going to do a Wolves again. Into a Spender. Into Frost Shock. Reset Frost Shock. Into a Spender. Into Frost Shock. See our damage? The damage is good. Frost Shock again. We're generating... My bars have been lit up this entire time. They're never not lit up. Our dogs are back. They're just always lit up because we're generating so many stacks of Maelstrom Weapon. It's crazy. Reset it. Use a Spender. Dogs. Frost Shock again. Sundering. It's a very weird playstyle, but you'll get it. You'll get the hang of it. Frost Shock. Oh, that was wrong. Maelstrom Infused Lightning Bolt. This. Spend it. Get the reset Frost Shock again. Do it again. We're going to spread it around. Big Lightning Bolt into a Frost Shock. There we go. It's really strange, and I know it's weird. We're going to do this again. Spread that around. We're going to do this. Lightning Bolt. Reset it. Cast Frost Shock again. Do it again. More Spenders. You just do Spenders. Your Spenders are always ready to go. It's absolutely crazy how many stacks of Maelstrom Weapon we are generating. Dogs are back again. We're going to do it one more time. It's just absolutely crazy. Spender, Frost Shock, Spender, Ice Strike, Frost Shock, Spender. I just keep having Spenders. I never stop having Spenders. It's absolutely craziness how many times I can spend on like Chain Lightning, for example. One more Primordial Wave Lightning Bolt thing here. There we go. Frost Shock, Spender. We're going to do one more Frost Shock here in a second. Here comes Frost Shock, Ice Strike, Spender, Frost Shock. It's crazy. The dogs are back again. Holy cow. We were doing like 16k sustained AoE damage there. Okay. Let's look at the breakdown. I want to look at the Feral Wolf uptime. Look at the Feral Wolf uptime! They were up for 75% of that fight. They're like up the whole time. Like they don't go down. 73%. It was basically 75% because I summoned them at the end there in the fight dragon. 75% Feral Spirit uptime. This is what I'm talking about. The Maelstrom generation is off the charts. It's crazy. We had Maelstrom Weapon for that entire... Like, we generated 594 stacks of Maelstrom Weapon. Look at that right there. Look at that. We're going to get the calculator out. What's this? Oh. Calculator. You ready? I'm going to calculate this. Let's say it was a 3-minute fight. So that's 3 times 60. That's 180. 180 seconds. Divided by 594. That's 3 Maelstrom. Yeah, there it is. Oh, sorry. I should do the other way around. It's 3. So in a 3-minute fight, we basically generated 600 stacks of Maelstrom Weapon. That's 100 per minute. That's 1.6 Maelstrom Weapon stacks. It's almost 2 Maelstrom Weapon stacks per second. Per second, guys. That's what we're generating. This is what I'm talking about. The Maelstrom Weapon stacks, we almost got 2 per second. We basically did. We did. Just call it 2. Imagine that was 600 instead of 594. We got 2 Maelstrom Weapon stacks per second with this build. absolutely insane. And we converted all those Maelstrom weapon stacks into Frost Shock damage because of Hailstorm, and we converted all those Maelstrom weapon stacks into Feral Spirit uptime. 75% of the fight, Feral Spirits were up. Okay? That's how crazy this build is. Like, not to mention all the damage that we're doing is, of course, enhanced by our mastery, because it's all frost damage for the most part, and chain lightning and lightning bolt, right? We get those primordial wave lightning bolts that are going through, plus the chain lightning that's going through. It's all mastery damage, baby. It's crazy. Storm Strike's way down here because we don't need to press it. I know it sounds really ridiculous and counterintuitive, but we don't benefit. Storm Strike doesn't benefit from our build. It's doing physical damage. It does 3,000 physical damage. Ice Strike does 3,400. No, hold on. Ice Strike does 3,500 frost damage. Frost Shock almost does 2,000 damage on its own. So if I press Ice Strike, if I go Frost Shock, Ice Strike, Frost Shock, that's 4,000 damage worth of Frost Shocks. Plus that's 7,500 damage I just did in like 2 GCDs versus 1 Storm Strike, which is 3k. 7,500 frost damage here versus 3,000 in the same amount of time. Actually, it takes us less time to pull off our combo. So this is the whole point I'm trying to say. Some of the guys were talking about the other videos, like, why aren't you ever pressing Storm Strike? You should be pressing Storm Strike. And it's like, well, not with this build. No. Actually, you should be pressing Frost Shock for multiple reasons. Number one, it does good enough damage on its own. Number two, it's generating stacks of Maelstrom Weapon, which are reducing the cooldown on our dogs. Okay? Number three, I can reset the cooldown of Frost Shock with Ice Strike, so I might as well press it as much as possible. This is the entire build. This is how it breaks down. It's really insane Maelstrom weapon generation. Our Feral Spirits uptime was about 75%, which is absolutely insane. Really, really good damage there. Well, like the buffs that they're giving us, obviously, from Elemental Spirits is super good. You can see that the other buffs didn't come through. Icy Edge didn't come through that much, but it's just more damage. It's just absolutely more damage. You know, we got the Fire Dogs a couple of times, and we got the Lightning Dogs to help with our Wind Fury damage and all that kind of stuff. So you can just have them up all the time, and they're giving you all the extra damage. You know, 2 out of 3 times you're going to get either a Fire Dog or an Ice Dog. And we had when the Fire Dog was up, you can see our Flame Shocks were cleaving, and they're doing tons of damage on their own. There's the Flame Shock damage right there. That's because we're just cleaving it naturally with Lava Lash, and then when the Fire Dogs are up, they're giving us more damage. So this is the AoE version of the build. I am going to show you a single target version really quickly here now, because it's also very strong, and I think potentially like is the best version of the single target builds for Shaman. I think it could be. It's something that I have to work on. It's really difficult to like do it properly, but I'm going to work on it and make it good. So we Fleshcraft, of course. We have 70% mastery. Here's the single target rotation. Feral Spirits on pull, Primordial Wave on pull, Lava Lash. Actually, we don't have to press Lava Lash. We don't need to spread it around. So we go Feral Spirits into Primordial Wave into Sundering, and then we're going to do the rest of our rotation from there. Okay? So here we go. Wolves, Primordial Wave, Sundering. Let's do a Storm Strike. Okay. We're going to do a Spender into Frost Shock into Ice Strike. And then we'll build up more. We'll do another Spender into Frost Shock again. Okay. Now we just keep going. Lava Lash is just here to, like, as a filler. Frost Shock. Okay. We're going to use a Spender. Then we're going to Frost Shock. Then we're going to reset Frost Shock. Use a Spender again. Then press Frost Shock again. Okay. Our Wolves are back. We're going to cast them. Frost Shock is up. We're going to press it. Spender. Now we're going to generate a lot here. We're going to use that. We're going to reset it. We're going to use a Spender again. And we're going to use a Spender again because otherwise we're going to keep overcapping. We're going to build lots of stacks here. Spender into Frost Shock. Here comes Primordial Wave. We're going to use our Lightning Bolt into Frost Shock. We're going to reset it with Ice Strike. Then use another Spender here right now into a Frost Shock again. Oh. You see the combo there? Dogs are back. Frost Shock. Reset Frost Shock. Cast it again. Spender again. Spender again into Frost Shock. We have so many Spenders. Spender again into a Frost Shock. Reset it with Ice Strike. Into a Spender. Into Frost Shock. Into a Spender. We just keep going back. Our dogs are back again. Into a Spender. Into Frost Shock. You want to try and buff it as much as you possibly can. But sometimes you just get it back so fast that you can't actually make that work. But this is the idea. Primordial Wave, Lightning Bolt, Frost Shock. Primordial Wave, Lightning Bolt, Frost Shock. Primordial Wave, Lightning Bolt, Frost Shock. You see that? We'll reset it again. Spender, Frost Shock. Dogs are back. We'll keep going. One more rotation of the dogs. Lava Lash is just here as a filler. Lightning Bolt. Lightning Bolt into Frost Shock, into Ice Strike, into Spender, into Frost Shock again. One more rotation of our big buffs. It's really crazy. Here we go. This, then that, then this. Our dogs are back, and we'd Ice Strike, and we do this. So many times. We're getting so many stacks of Maelstrom Weapon. It's crazy, guys. So Lightning Bolt takes the cake there because we have all the Primordial Wave resets. I didn't actually realize this before, but did you see that Primordial Wave was resetting Frost Shock? I actually didn't realize it worked that way. Pretty cool. Anyway, Lightning Bolt, Frost Shock are the top. The Wolves are doing 10.5%. What was the Wolf uptime there? They were up for 60% of that fight. So a little bit less because you don't have the AoE cleave from Hailstorm. So it's not going to generate as many stacks of Maelstrom Weapon for you, but still very respectable. 60% uptime on the Wolves. Maelstrom Weapon stacks, we generated 323 in that. That was a 2.5 minute fight. So what is that? That is 60, 120 plus 30, 150, 150 seconds. Let's do the 323 divided by 150. So that's 2 per second. Again, once again, it's right on course for being 2 per second. 2 Maelstrom Weapon stacks per second, which is really, really good. What it allows you to do is, of course, get back to your spenders. Get back to Lightning Bolt. I was pressing Lightning Bolt probably as many times as I possibly could. Ellie Blast, got to press that 10 times in that fight. Really, really good. And then you can use the Frost Shock damage, of course, once again. The other cool thing about this build, one little final note that I'm going to make about it, is that it is extremely versatile. You're focusing so much on Frost Shock, and, you know, you get so many Maelstrom Weapon stacks that you get a lot of instant cast Lightning Bolts. You have so many ranged abilities here. Flame Shock, Frost Shock, Primordial Wave, Lightning Bolt, they're all ranged. Ellie Blast. So, like, on Halandris, for example, you know when the missiles come down on Halandris, you have to back away from the boss for two seconds, maybe 3 seconds? You can be using all these abilities while you're doing it. You can Frost Shock right before you have to leave, and then you press Ice Strike to get the cooldown on it. Then you press your Lightning Bolt that's been Maelstrom infused, and then you press the Frost Shock that's now got the Hailstorm buff on it at the end of it. And you can see that you can do all of that while you're away from the boss, and you're not losing any downtime. You're not losing any damage. Skolex is another example. Skolex does those blue swirlies all around him that can sometimes like interrupt your ability to get close to him. You can press these abilities while you're away from the boss. So not only does it actually do respectable damage, it does really good AoE damage in particular, and it has a lot of versatility behind it because you get more access to these ranged abilities. But the bottom line here is that this thing just generates an absolute truckload of Maelstrom Weapon stacks, 600 in a 3-minute fight. You know, Feral Spirit uptime was 80%. 80% here on this fight. Like, that's a crazy uptime for the Feral Spirits, and the buffs that they're giving you are absolutely incredible. Really, really good. On top of that, the damage, if you run this setup, is actually quite respectable on Mythic Plus in AoE, and it'll also do fine on single target in a Mythic Plus as well. I think it does okay in a single target in a raid fight too. I have to tweak it and make it a little bit better, but you can see the potential here. And again, the reason that this works is primarily because I'm focusing so heavily on mastery. I have 70% mastery, and on top of that, you need to run this Chill to the Core Conduit. So let me just do one final rundown of the entire build. You're going to run Witch Doctor Wolf Bones, okay? You're trying to reduce the cooldown of your dogs as much as possible. How do you do that? By pressing Frost Shock. Frost Shock with Chill to the Core is going to reduce the cooldown of your dogs by generating stacks of Maelstrom Weapon for you. Then you're going to take Ice Strike, which refreshes the cooldown of Frost Shock. So you can go Frost Shock into Ice Strike into Frost Shock for even more cooldown reduction on your wolves. And then you're going to take the Hailstorm buff to give you AoE damage every time you do want to use those Frost Shocks. So you go Chain Lightning into Frost Shock into Ice Strike into Chain Lightning into Frost Shock. You keep resetting the cooldown that way. And it not only does it do good AoE damage, it will reduce the cooldown of the dogs like crazy, so that they end up being like a 10 to 15 second cooldown, basically. And you can have them up for 80% of the fight, which is what we had in this AoE situation right here. So that's the new build, guys. That's what I've been trying out. It's a new Ice Shaman build. The Frost Shaman is here, and I think it's like very interesting. It's something that we need to look at moving forward. I think it has become a more viable build now because we're able to reach such high thresholds of mastery that it's able to make all these little intricacies of the build work really well. Ice Strike doing tons of damage, Frost Shock doing tons of damage, etc., etc. So also the Chill to the Core Conduit being 60% now. It's finally starting to get to a place where this build will actually work. So that's it. That's what I wanted to show you guys today. I'm really excited about this Frost build. I'm going to be trying it out in all the builds that I'm doing, in the Mythic Plus stuff that I've been running. I'm going to keep trying this out to see how well it functions. It's a little bit crazy to get your head wrapped around it, but once you figure it out, it's a lot of fun. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you have not subscribed yet, please, I would love it if you would run down and hit that subscribe, hit that big red button, and like the video if you liked it. We're on our way to 1,000 subscribers. I think I just crested 950 subscribers today on YouTube. I would love to get to 1,000 by the end of the month. So if you can help me make that happen, I would really appreciate it. Thanks a lot, guys. I'll see you in the next one.